Campus in East Lansing, Michigan, and welcome to all those tuning in from afar and watching the live stream this evening. Appreciate you all being here. I know that for our students in the room, it's early mid-April, and you're thinking about the end of the semester, and I understand there's a lot of demands on your time, so I appreciate you being here tonight, but you're really in store for a great presentation. I'm excited for what you're going to hear this evening with our featured guest. Before we get to our esteemed featured guest, I want to share a little bit more information about what's coming up with the Burgess Institute, which is really one singular big thing that's taking place tomorrow, and that is the Burgess New Venture Challenge. Anyone in the room been to the Burgess New Venture Challenge before? I see a few hands in the back. Excellent. So if you're familiar with Shark Tank, like on ABC, this is essentially our version of that. It is MSU's premium student pitch competition, university-wide. 15 student semifinalists competing for upwards of $50,000 in prize awards that will be dispersed tomorrow night. It's a really, really fun event. We may be biased, but we think it's like the coolest thing that takes place here at Michigan State this spring. It is a free event. There are food and beverages available to our attendees. We highly encourage students to join us, but you must RSVP and register in advance. So if you haven't done that already, you can go to eship.msu.edu. That is the website for the Burgess Institute. You'll find a link there for the Burgess New Venture Challenge, which will take you to our registration page. So again, if you haven't been, or even if you have been, come back. It's a really, really dynamic program where we celebrate student entrepreneurship and many of our top student founders here at Michigan State each year. It'll be held at the Kellogg Center, by the way. So it kicks off at 4 o'clock, open to the public, with the formal program beginning around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So hope to see many of you there tomorrow. It'll be so much fun. With that being said, we don't have any other formal events or programs coming up the rest of the semester after tomorrow, which means after tomorrow, we're really looking towards graduation. So for the students here in the room that are expecting to graduate or anticipating graduating in a few weeks, congratulations to all of you. If you've been with our program or engaged in one of our classes or events, we thank you for giving us your time, and we hope that there is value add for you as well, and excited for all of your adventures and the next chapter after you become an alum of Michigan State University. So thanks again for being here. Really, really appreciate it. We've got pizza and salad on the side over there. So again, if you didn't grab it yet, feel free to grab it throughout tonight's presentation or certainly at the end. But with that, I want to introduce in a moment, call up both my esteemed colleague and our guest tonight. Shubhi is here from West Austin, Texas, that is. And we are so delighted that she is here this evening, spending multiple days on campus with us to share more about her story as an executive, board member, advisor, former vice president at Alphabet/Google, and now a founder of a really neat new venture that she's going to be talking about tonight, Upleyvl. So without further ado, if you could join me in welcoming Shubhi and my colleague Aaron Richard to the front of the stage.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I think we're all mic'd up and
Yes.
we're on. So
Go.
welcome everybody. How is everybody doing? All right? That was low energy. Okay. How is everyone doing tonight? Oh, that's even better. It's kind of nice to get energy back from the audience, as you'll discover soon.
Yeah.
So I am not going to assume that everyone in this room knows who you are. Some of these individuals are here because there's class, and they're like, I want to get credit for going to an Innovate State. Others are like absolute diehard fans of you. So if you could, give me your elevator pitch. Who is Shubhi?
Who is Shubhi? That's a pretty big question, but let's see if we can.
I mean, we start out grand here.
I can see that. So Shubhi, in many ways, is not that different than the 17-year-old that went to school here. A Michigan girl, very much has a strong Michigan work ethic and all those values, and have lived now around the world. But the biggest role I would say for me in life is I'm a mom. I have a 23-year-old son. So when I look at all of you, in my mind, I'm like, oh man, did I get old? Because you all in many ways look like my young boy. I am married. I have been married for 35 years, and I met my husband here on a canoe. The College of Engineering actually had a summer picnic at Kensington 4th of July, and my husband and I ended up in the same canoe, and that's how we met each other, and he got his metallurgical engineering degree from here. So And then, as you know, I'm sure, maybe if you got a chance to check out my LinkedIn, I worked in very large organizations. I also went to the other school, got my MBA there, and that's another story. Maybe I'll tell you why I went from engineering to business school. But most importantly, I think this is the chapter of my life that I'm very excited about because I'm able to bring this incredible academic training that I got here. It's come a full circle, computer science, engineering, and biomed, and then, practicing as an engineer, working as an executive in all these different corporations, being a woman leader, which I think is a really important role I've played for a big part of my life, and now bringing all that to bear in Upleyvl, which is the new venture.
Tell us a little bit about Upleyvl. What's the elevator pitch for Upleyvl?
So Upleyvl is the first of its kind women-trained AI platform really designed to bridge the gender gap in society and in organizations. And so, we all know when we think about whether it's machine learning or AI, et cetera, the most important ingredient is data. And so where do you get that data from? And believe it or not, when I started on this journey, I was very naive, I suppose. I just thought, I could buy gender data sets and I'll be able to figure it out. But it doesn't exist. It does not exist outside of the US Census that probably has some data on us and some pockets here and there. So we had to build all those gender data sets, and that's what we've done over the last 3 years or so.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What does that data set look like?
So that data set it's a huge data set now. It's designed to address our professional, our financial, and our personal lives. So, when you think about any challenge, any question, most often those three intersect. And I'm not saying, by the way, that's only for women. That's also true for men. So that is just a fact. But as we think about the gender data sets, we had to build these data sets where we brought experts from all around the world, women experts, physicians, lawyers, corporate leaders, coaches, but they had to be experts in their domain. And so that's how we got all the data and the information to build those various data sets. And then the other aspect, because we're very focused today on building women leaders, and so one of the things, of course, we all know is we need our business, our financial, and a strategic acumen. And that's really, really important. And oftentimes we women have it, but we may not necessarily demonstrate it, or we may have 2 out of the 3. So it's really bringing that all of those skill sets and most critical elements on wanting to be a woman leader is what the platform tries to deliver. And we deliver that through our own generative AI. We deliver that through our own content library. It's fully integrated across the ability to have virtual events, discussion forums, networking, right? So we want the AI almost to be, if somebody, were to have a conversation with me, I would say, Lisa, let me connect you with 3 other women because maybe they can help you, right? So that's how we've sort of built the AI engine to really think about how can you provide different resources and different modalities.
It's so hard for me not to I feel like doing this because I'm like, I want you to give me one thing that you are excited about when it comes to AI.
Well, I'm excited and nervous because I'm very excited about the AI age. So when you think about everything from Stone Age to AI age, women have made progress, but not enough progress because when we look at across, whether it's the pay gap or it's a promotion gap, leadership gap, those gaps continue to exist. Now there's more women in the workforce for sure, but we still haven't gotten there. AI in some ways, it's not the industrial age and it's not the internet age. The AI actually will leverage a lot of intrinsic skills women have, provided we get those opportunities, provided we have the exposure to get upskilled, to be able to take advantage, because I think the AI age would be absolutely amazing. If not, the flip side of that is, there's a lot of rhetoric out there that with AI, women are the ones that will lose a lot of the jobs. And that's what makes me nervous and worried that actually AI could, if it goes the other way, and we don't think about responsible AI, we don't think about, gender bias, racial biases, all these different biases, and we don't build it the right way, then women and other underrepresented minorities, et cetera, could truly be at a disadvantage. So it had, in one way I'm very excited, and the other side, that excitement I have to temper it because you don't know in what direction it would go.
There's also a part of me that is incredibly excited about the AI age,
Yes.
and also terrified, which makes me sound like a Luddite, like I'm not somehow excited about this technology. But what do you think? What do you think scares you? What keeps you up at night? Not scared, but what keeps you up at night when it comes to AI?
I think. So it varies every week practically as you look at Fortune magazine, Forbes, whatever, Wall Street Journal. But there is no other sector that has been projected to grow as fast as AI is. So they're saying by 2032, it will be almost a $2 trillion market, right? That's huge.
Yeah.
That's really huge. And so, it goes back to the divide. Obviously, the $2 trillion, if it's spread uniformly, that would be a really great thing. But only if a few benefit and majority don't, that would be a really catastrophic issue for society. Right.
And I feel like, I just saw the clip of Microsoft's CEO sort of dancing around the question about how AI will impact the job market and how it will impact how you all will be acquiring jobs and what those jobs will look like after. What about, why do you think we avoid the hot topic at this moment?
I think if anybody's sitting here and truly being super confident and answering them as an expert, I would not trust them because there is honestly so much unknowns. There are probably people that are far, far, far smarter and probably know far, far, far more than I do. But I don't think as a community we all truly know. And what we know also equally scares us. But our job is not to go around scaring people.
Right.
Right?
That's very true.
So we do have to be tempered about it. Knowing what we know is how do we ensure that and as a capitalist, I don't want tremendous regulation. But on the other hand, I want right regulation. But then it worries me that the people who are going to regulate us, no disrespect to our senators, but you should not be thinking about regulating AI because you have handlers who still type letters for you.
Yes, and still print emails.
And print emails for you. So that's there. So AI is moving so fast, but the ecosystem and the infrastructure that we need to truly make sure that we are developing it in a responsible way isn't there because so many of you who are actually digital natives are still at the universities or just starting out your careers, but you all will be the most natural people to think about this and take it into the next phase of AI, for sure.
What do you love using AI for? I've been thinking about it as a general assistant in some ways. ChatGPT, I need you to do X.
Yeah.
And it does, and I go, thank you. That just shaved 2 hours off my life. What do you think this tool? What do you use as a tool?
Yeah. Well, of course, any sort of rote tasks, I think it's really great. But when you think about the shifts in demographics, right? Today, the baby boomers are a big part of leadership around the globe. And Gen X, which is my generation, we're a much smaller generation relative to the boomers, baby boomers. And so what will happen is that, and I think next year, the baby boomers turn 65. So slowly they'll be fading out. And so we are going to have to figure out how to accelerate the leadership development of the millennials and followed by the Gen Zs to continue to build these pipelines. And that probably will solve that in time, should help that. But having said that, at the same time, we also know that with what's happening around the world, we all use Amazon. And so when you think about what's going on in the world of logistics and the need, the big need for the labor force there. So I was reading somewhere that I think there's about 10 million job openings in the logistics space just in the United States, if I recall correctly, and about 7 million, there's probably 7 million employees. So we have a shortfall of 3 million. And when if you look at projections of demographics, frankly, around the globe, we're going to have the significant shortfall. So now AI will be really great to create humanoids, right? So truly people that can lift boxes, put boxes, move things around, etc. So that will be a very good use of AI because it's really addressing some big issues, that we can naturally fix.
True. I'm going to take us a little off course now.
Okay.
So where did you grow up, Shubhi?
So my parents got married in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. So that was home for until I was in elementary school. Then my parents decided, because my grandparents were getting older, to go back to India. And when I was a teenager, came back to the States, which is back in Houghton. So home was Houghton for a very, very long time because my dad taught for almost over 40 years. But then I went to school here, and after this, I lived in Birmingham, Michigan, and I worked for Ford. And I was in Birmingham for a very long time before Ford sent me off to London, and then we were in London for almost 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and then California, and now Austin. And now Austin is home.
So Austin also is hot on most occasions, so you must be missing Houghton.
Yes. I miss it for all of 8 weeks. No, I'm kidding. It's a great place to raise children, that's for sure. So from that perspective, mom and dad did good.
So how did growing up in Houghton inform your journey?
Being a professor's daughter, my father was always, a lot of their friend circles were other professors. It's primarily an engineering school, So, and my mom and dad were, I think, the first couple. They got married in '64 and '65. First couple. I was the first Indian baby, so mom said people would actually literally stop to see. So it was quite interesting. But because they were there for so long, as new faculty members came in, right? So we always had lots of faculty members at home. But what was always interesting, so when I look back, the spirited conversations these professors and the partners would have around multitude of different topics, but in many ways were always, and especially my father being on the mechanical engineering side, they were talking back then about autonomous vehicles. They were talking back then about nuclear physics and nuclear reactors and what will happen to energy. So but we were talking about earlier, which is also academia is not the fastest moving animal in the world, but there are so many smart people, of course, in the world of academia who are thinking about this. And they're able to project with the future. Sometimes I wish I had paid more attention to what they were saying. But living in that small college town, but it was a pure engineering school, I think really shaped my, especially today, is building partnerships with schools is really important.
What lessons did you take from your time growing up that still inform you today?
Quite a few. I think coming from a pretty modest family, nothing was really handed. So working hard was really important, right? Working hard, being able to be self-sufficient. But one thing that I think was important is, and I heard this earlier when we did Lunch and Learn, was we're time poor, And so how do you manage the time? And when I was in school, I thought I was time poor because I had 3 jobs and labs and classes and homework and exams and all of those things, right? But then I would give anything to go back to that life, because what I had was getting married, having kids, home, carrying responsibilities for your family, and then now, of course, with this new venture, what you learn earlier on is also time management. I think that's very important. You got to work hard, work smart, think about how you manage your time. But I think it's also really, really important as we're thinking about each day of our life, what is your North Star? And being true to that North Star, and then being true to your relationships, integrity, honesty, those things are so valuable, especially in today's world where we're so hyper connected, whether that's through social media or whatever. But social capital is a really important part of being able to navigate our lives, because you recognize very soon you alone can't do that. And so you really need to figure out how to build really good, trusting relationships and nurture them and respect them. And so, those are all the lessons that you learn over time.
Do you think there was a specific moment, like specific experiences that in your growing up years that sort of planted the seeds of entrepreneurialism for you?
Yes. So, I told you, growing up in Houghton, you get about 300 inches of snow. And so there's me, and I have 2 younger brothers. And so my dad, to keep us busy and amused, would buy like $200, $300 cars. And we would tinker, would fix them. And then come spring, we would sell them to the young college students, right? But what I took away from that was just problem solving. And I think entrepreneurship in its broadest sense is really looking at a problem and going, how do I solve this problem? And then the next part of that is there demand, obviously, for the solution. But I'm somebody who came from decades from corporate America. And I think having that entrepreneurial mindset is so important, even because you don't have to be an entrepreneur the way I am today. You can really be an entrepreneur even in corporates, because you're trying to solve problems. You're trying to find solutions. You're trying to get your peers or your bosses or to buy into that problem set, to get it implemented. So I think that, and like I was saying earlier, I think entrepreneurship should almost be a mandatory class for all our incoming freshmen, because it really helps you to think this through. I was saying earlier that, to be good leaders, you need that financial acumen, you need that business acumen, you need that strategic acumen. Well, even as an entrepreneur, you need that too, right? Because if you don't have that strong financial model, you haven't thought about how you're going to go to market, you haven't thought about who that team is going to be, you haven't thought about, by the way, forget about all the sexy part of the bit, but actually setting up the company and establishing the company and hiring the team. It's the same skill sets that you also need in the corporate world. And it all comes to its core of really being curious and wanting to solve problems.
That's fantastic. I hope you're all taking notes. This is very helpful. So what attracted you to Michigan State? Like, what drew you here, and how would you describe your Spartan experience?
Amazing. There was not a day I didn't. I worked damn hard. I mean, I had tough classes because I did both computer engineering and I also had a minor in biomed. And so I worked, I remember working really hard, but I loved every minute. What I wanted, so I actually got a scholarship to go to Gainesville, Florida. And my family and I, we went down there. And that's also a really big campus. But I remember, there was something in me that I wanted to go to a bigger school. But having said that, I went to Gainesville, and it was a big school, and it was very far away from mom and dad. And I couldn't do it. And although I had a scholarship, I couldn't do it. So then this was the other school that, and I just felt comfortable. I mean, and I knew I wanted a bigger school, so State did it for me. And I paid in state tuition, so it all worked out.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you have any particular memories that you would like to share? Any one memory that you'd like to share about campus?
So many, but my favorite, I think, has to be walking along the river in the spring. That I think is so special, so pretty, and feeding the ducks.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so I have that as one memory. The other, of course, is, I think it was my sophomore to junior year, somewhere, I think. Yeah, I was a rising junior. I worked at the dairy farm, and that was a great summer job. But I quit in September because I was like, I can't fit in my jeans anymore. so I had the best summer. Like, to work in a dairy farm, in a dairy store in the summer was fantastic.
Not a terrible job whatsoever.
No, not a terrible job at all. So that was really, yeah.
So how did your Spartan experience lead to where you are today?
You know,
and I don't think there's a straight line, right?
No, there is no straight line, but when I look back, it was my junior year, so I was a rising senior, and I got an internship with EDS. And when I think about it, I didn't have really lots of experience because that was really my first corporate internship, because before that I'd worked at the dairy, case center, library, like those were all the campus jobs. I was a TA, I did all those things on campus, but that was my first off-campus job. And getting into EDS, although I did not honestly, it wasn't a good fit for me from a cultural perspective. It was a very different culture for me. But it was a good summer because I learned what it is like to be in a corporate setting, and EDS was very formal. I had to wear suits every day, and skirts and hose and pumps and the whole works, right? I went there every day, and I'm a little summer intern. But I think I wouldn't have I'm not sure I would have gotten that opportunity if it was not for coming from Michigan State College of Engineering and be able to work in Troy. And back in the day, they had the 800 Troy that was like on Big Beaver. Yeah. So I was in those offices.
That's wild.
With all the senior people. But of course, I was a little minion. And I didn't have to do photocopying and get coffee, but everything else as an intern I did, right? Which is fine.
Was it at least a paid internship?
It was a fully paid internship. Oh yeah, no, they were.
I mean, we grew up in the days where there were none.
Yes. No, they paid. I mean, I don't know, it wasn't that much.
Right, but enough.
But I did
better than zero.
It was better than zero. Yeah. And I think I am grateful to the career counselors that we had at school that helped me to get that EDS internship. And then from there on, I went to work for Novell, and and it's interesting because the CEO of Novell is Eric Schmidt. I did not know him at all when I worked at Novell, to be honest. But then he ended up also being, the CEO at Google when I was there. So having those opportunities and having that on your resume made a big difference.
Incredible difference.
Yeah, and it all came from going to school here, right? Because others, what else do you have? You have your school, you have your grades, and that's it.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you grew up just steeped in academics,
Yes.
like in academic culture.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about the journey from academics to big corporate. Like, how does that happen? What was that through line?
Yeah, I mean, the through line was supposed to be get my bachelor's, then get my master's in engineering and a PhD and teach like my father. And I think life was all, so the family had decided that's what I was going to do. But, after my undergrad and as I started to work as a systems engineer and then became a district systems engineer, so I had a bigger territory, it was a tough culture in 1990 to be a woman engineer. It was very difficult. I could just write a book on those 5 years of my life, right? It was really blatant comments, behavior, being excluded, zero sense of belonging. The guys would just go out, and then typically our the administrators would be women in the company, so they would just leave me and the women behind, right? And so it was not a culture that I felt like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I was attracted because I worked with a lot of clients. I realized that as much as we do a lot of the engineering, ultimately it becomes a commercial decision. There has to be a bit, which I didn't understand. I knew the engineering side a little bit, but I definitely didn't understand the commercial side. So out of nothing at all, I'm going to try to apply to Michigan for my MBA, and if I get in, I get in. And the reason I applied to Michigan is because we lived in Birmingham, so it was easy for me to go to Ann Arbor and back. And that was the only school I applied to, and I got in. And then when I graduated in '97, it was a really good year for MBAs. I had 11 job offers on the East Coast, West Coast, consulting, IB, all of that. But then I chose the Ford leadership program because it was a great leadership program. Been married, and my husband had a great job in Detroit, so we ended up in Detroit for a long time.
That's amazing. And then you just kept climbing the ladder.
So the Treasury Leadership Program at Ford is pretty much up or out, and so and it's a fantastic program because they rotate you through many different parts of the business. And one thing I will say is whether it was my undergrad in engineering or doing my MBA, I truly have a love for numbers. I love numbers. I love data. So anything that has numbers, it sort of just intellectually resonates for me. And treasury is a pretty complex part of finance just because of the kind of financial instruments in the capital markets. And so that was really and you want to do treasury, if you do treasury, in really large organizations like Ford or Google or Tesco, et cetera, because there's just a lot more complexity of the different businesses that they have. And so yes, I stayed with Ford for a long time, and then from there, Ford is who sent me to London and did the whole Jaguar Land Rover divestiture, bought Ford of Romania, and so yeah, lots of fun, interesting things while I was there. I am a gearhead. I love my cars, so it was really interesting from that perspective. But then you'll see, I'm sure, in my background, I didn't necessarily stick to one sector. I think that's also important. You have to keep your mind open, I think, because you never know where opportunities will come. I never thought I would go into retail, which is what I did with Tesco in London, or go for professional services with PwC, and then pure tech with Alphabet, Google. But it was just taking those transferable skills. And I think that's also really important. For me, at least, I remember the transferable skills that I got while I was here at school, whether it was working at the dairy or working at the library or working at the case center or being a TA, being able to really think about what are those skill sets that I can transfer into my new role.
Where did you cut your teeth in tech? And when? I graduated with computer science engineering from here, and then worked for QMS and Network General and Novell, and those are all big networking hardware. Software engineering was not such a big deal as much as hardware was the king. Yes.
Yes.
And can you tell us about the culture of tech in that? It was extremely.
Time. I'm not saying today it's not, because we are seeing more women in STEM, better than what it was. But it was sad that this morning when I met with faculty, they said it's still it's gotten better, but not what it was as when I graduated. You could literally count on one hand the number of women that graduated from computer science engineering. I think that when we think about our transferable skills, or we think about different sectors, it's really important to think about what skill sets you have.
Yeah. So in terms of, if you look at tech now,
yeah,
it's software that's king, right?
Well, yes. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
AI will be king.
Yeah.
So I would love to have you tell us about what are one or two things that every student here should do to prepare for the entrepreneurial world that awaits them?
Yeah, we have a little school in our backyard in Austin, and from time to time they bring me in as a guest, and I go in to be a good neighbor, which is UT Austin, and there are young men and women that are also in their entrepreneurship program, and I love the energy and the enthusiasm around wanting to have these amazing ideas, and I think that's really, really important. But I always ask these questions, whether I'm a judge or I'm mentoring for the evening, is really think about how big is this market, first and foremost. But within that market, how much is addressable, right? That you can actually go get. Great. So you are going to have a solution, and that's fantastic. It's really important. But is that the best solution? Are there different ways for you to come up with a different solution? But then take all of that, and the best thing that one could do is go build your financial model. Because when you start to build that financial model, that's when really the truth emerges around all the various assumptions you're making. Because when you say, okay, well, in the first year, we're going to have, call it $20,000 of revenue. My question to you is, okay, well, where is that revenue coming from? How are you getting the revenue? How are people even going to find out that you have this product? How much is it costing you to get this, to even, whether it's just word of mouth, or it's advertising, or it's B2B. Well, first of all, is it B2B revenue? Is it B2C revenue? How are you recognizing the revenue? Do you get paid right away? Is it that you got to wait 90 days, right? So, and that's just the questions I ask on just the revenue side. And you have to really think that through. Well, okay, well, now you got the revenue. What's your cost of sales? How are you coming up with that cost of sales? How do you know that is the cost of sales? So then what is your variable versus your fixed costs, et cetera? So then, then you go through that. Then you're like, okay, well, now let's go through all your expenses. And what are your assumptions around that? And really build your whole go-to-market strategy and all the various costs associated. Be super clear around all the assumptions you're making. And then what is that base case? What is that stress case? What is that, upside case? But as entrepreneurs, of course, we love our baby. And we are like not only just on the high case, but we're like in the uber high case where we're going to make, $100 million in 5 years, and we're going to be that unicorn because we're going to get a 10x multiple and we're going to be $1 billion, right? And so, and I think there is, of course, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, because we can dream big, we think big, we want to solve those problems. The world needs us, but we also have to temper that with reality. So that's one side of the equation, is just whatever that business product is. As a founder, I will tell you, you also spend an inordinate amount of time on the mundane things of building a company. So just getting it registered, and the taxes and the insurance and the people, and like there is 8 million things that has nothing to do with actually, because somehow magically somebody could take care of all of that for me and I could just do what I love to do on Upleyvl. That would be nirvana, but that doesn't exist. Like, I know I just got an email from my insurance going, you haven't completed all these forms, and I'm like, I know I haven't. I have to finish that tonight, right? And it's not something I'm jumping up and down to do, but I know I need to do it. So there's a lot of time during the day that you end up as a founder having to do all those things, applications, forms, paperwork. There's a lot of other, administrative stuff that comes with it. And, unless you have really deep pockets, most of us have to do a lot of that yourself. Right?
So many hats.
So many hats you wear. Like I'm the product person, I'm also the data person, the AI person, I'm the HR person, I'm the legal person. Not legal in the sense I do use but I have to go do all that, like a paralegal, if you will, in the company, right? So yeah, there's a lot of hats you wear.
Can you talk about intentional team building? I think that's a really important thing, especially for young entrepreneurs to hear, is about like, how do you build a really good team and team culture?
I think, so we'll come back to the team culture, because the simpler you can keep it, the better it is. But building an intentional team, at least for me, has been really knowing who I am and really recognizing things I can't do, which is a long list of things, by the way, just by definition. And things that I know I can do, and I can do them reasonably well, right? Now, I also don't have the luxury to go, well, there's all these things that I'm not great at, so I'm going to go hire for them, because that's not the answer either. So it's really then prioritizing that and saying, okay, these are things that's food, water, shelter that I absolutely have to go hire for these roles because I can't do it. And if we don't, that's not, again, the North Star is got to do the right thing for Upleyvl. So that's not the right. So that I think is really important to build, right? So that's the what. What do I really need? Okay. Then on the how, it's about what, whether we like it or not, I think there is a DNA in the company, and you don't want that organ rejection.
Right.
So you have to really recognize what that is and how somebody is going to fit into that organization. One of the things we say actually in our job descriptions is, first and foremost, we say, if you're man or woman, we don't really, we want everybody to, as not the data sets, but in terms of working for the company, we're open to either gender. And we will say, if you are passionate about gender equity, then please apply. Or just stop reading. I think we see something like that, because we don't want to waste your time, don't want to waste our time. So so those are things that we know that the people have to be really passionate about if they want to be part of Upleyvl.
How many are on your team right now?
Today we're about 15.
That's
and
incredible.
so it goes back to that cost that I talked about, which is, we're also very thoughtful about not hardening our costs, because you don't need some, so you have to think about what could be variable. And so, sometimes we'll use a PR team only for a specific, because we know an event is coming or something's happening big, and we'll use them. And then otherwise, we'll pay a retainer for 2 months, and then we'll be done. So you have to really think about, do you really need a full-time marketing person? Or maybe you do, but you've got to hit some milestones. Right? So that goes back to the financial model. That's really great question, actually. Very, really important to think about, when am I hiring and why? So in our case, this is the year that is our go-to-market. We just got a really significant strategic investment. Now we will use that investment on our go-to-market initiative, because we hit that. We delivered on it. Now I think we have the right to go spend that money.
This excites me. So, I'm watching the time, because I want to be able to turn it over to the audience to ask some questions. But I want you to tell me about serendipity that's involved in your path, serendipitous moments that have happened.
Oh, wow. Quite a few, actually, right? I think I can't remember who said this, something 80% hard work and 20% luck. And I would agree that it is 20% luck. So in 2017, I lost my father, and it was just really unexpected. And I think that was a defining moment in my life, because he was such a big force for who I am, and shaping in many ways my career. And it made me really think back then, if I have 10,000 days left in my life, what is it that I want to do? Because I've been treasurer for Tesco, which was a $100 billion revenue company. And again, I was the first woman and the first person of color, same at Alphabet and Google, et cetera. And so, of course, next step is to be CFO. But I had a friend who had come in from London, and I was telling her about the fact that I want, even in large tech organizations where, money may not necessarily be an object, but you still have a budget. And there is, when you think about how that budget gets allocated, 75% of the leadership budget gets allocated to senior leaders, and only 25% of the budget, on average, gets allocated to what I call the forgotten middle. So the women that are sort of entry level to let's say, director level. And so I wanted to get more budget for some of my high-rising young women, but there were some limitations. So I was whining and complaining to my friend from London about this. And I said, I don't understand how I am in the valley. How is it that we don't use technology in a smart way? And one of the why do we spend 75% on senior leaders is because there's so much personalization, right? So executive coaching, leadership training, those are very expensive and highly personalized. So you pay more money, right? But then I was thinking, but the Spotify, I get my own music list, and I don't pay that much. So why can't we think about smart ways to democratize? And she said to me, Nina said to me, well, I don't know why you're complaining, because you're somebody who could go fix it, right? Okay. So I was like, that's really interesting that, yes, you're right, I could go build that and try to figure that out. But it's easier said than done, because for somebody like me who had only had a very big company career, I don't think I would have had the credibility to even go raise 1 red cent, frankly. Or maybe I could have done a few cents, but not what I needed. And so you're right. Out of the blue, I got a call from a headhunter saying, there is this really cool fintech company in Austin, and they're really interested in a background, and would you be open to looking for a CFO job? And that's exactly what I needed. I went into a Series A startup, did a Series B with them, learned to roll up my sleeves, and great startup experience. Got sold to Cardlytics, and then in 2020, COVID happened, which then gave me time to go build a small team and go into data and research, and then I happened to meet a friend, a Google friend introduced me to a friend in Austin, who then introduced me to my first investor. Just random.
That's wild.
And then she helped me to build, we only have 6 investors in our cap table, and we were able to raise, a few million.
That's amazing. Nope, I'm not going to go on that trail. I know I'll be yelled at here in just a few seconds. So I do want to ask one more question. Look, I had so many questions. I was so excited for this interview, Chris. I was like, wow. So we asked this of every Innovate State guest. Can you recommend either 3 books or podcast or some sort of media that influence you, that is relevant to you, that you love and would love to share?
Yeah. I truly believe that to be a good entrepreneur, or even to be even, it's really important to read different genres and different books. And I like to read, and I do. Of course, I will do the Kindle and I'll listen to podcasts. But right now I'm reading, and I usually read different books simultaneously only because it depends what I'm feeling. But I will read every day. Right now I'm reading The Age of AI by Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger. Really, really good book. The other book that I'm reading is, there's a great documentary on Netflix on the Blue Zone and why people live longer. And that I just got the book and I just started reading that. And the third book, I also love history, but I'll read history through different perspectives. I just finished reading a whole series of books on the founding fathers, but through the lens of their wives or their daughters, right? So I just finished that, and right now I just got a book by Sarah Fryer. I think it's called No Filter. And No Filter is about the story of Instagram. All right, and so that's a really great book. So anyway, that's what I would say. Just be curious and read different genres and different topics.
Are you a voracious reader?
I love to read, yes. Yeah,
That's
and as
great.
much as I travel, it's,
you have to find something to do.
Something, yes, exactly.
And it's not sleep, because it's never comfortable. So.
No, I like to read.
So we want to open it up to the audience here. Do you? We already have one out of the gate. We're ready to go. They're going to bring a mic here quick. Got another mic.
I am loud enough. Hello.
There.
Hi, Shubhi. I'm Yashasvi. I am actually an MBA student, not an undergrad.
Okay.
But then I have lots of questions to ask you,
Okay.
but I will keep one just because I want to be fair to everybody else. Your entire journey, a lot of your stories were around how you made decisions based on your family needs. The one especially where you decided to go for your MBA at University of Michigan, especially you decided to take up the Ford job. Like a lot of family decisions were made around the family. And I think that is something that a lot of women, and especially women in workforces, struggle with, which is why we see so many women leaving jobs altogether because they have these family needs. And I personally feel that women are penalized for it on a lot of levels for that. With your organization in Upleyvl, how do you plan to bring this equity for women who are in the work field, who have the skill sets, even if 50%, but are trainable to become great leaders of the corporate world at least? How are you planning on helping these women to get that equity?
Yeah, actually, when Aaron asked me the question around culture, remiss of me not to have mentioned, one of the things I've said from day one with Upleyvl is we have no boundaries, because Upleyvl has no boundaries. From day one, we launched as a global product. We want our team to be anywhere in the world. I don't really care whether, and we always say, if you want to be a multi-billion-dollar company, we're going to have thousands of people. I'm not going to be able to micromanage them. I don't care if you work Monday and Tuesday and golf Wednesday through Friday. I don't care. Just get the work done. And I think and of course, we are predominantly women, but we just expect.
And how do you suggest women who are not with Upleyvl but are able to, in the other fields, how do they get their equity when they're penalized for it?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, because we're talking about shifting decades and decades of a construct. Having said that, it is slightly getting better, right? At least people are, it's almost like the rhetoric has changed to organizations requiring people to come in 5 days. It's almost like, this company now expects their people to come in 5 days. Right? That's not the norm anymore. That's become more of an exception. So are we completely at zero? No, but have we at least made progress to 3? We're making progress to 3, So I think that's, now, in the future, especially this is what I said, in some way AI will be very helpful, because with AI, we may not necessarily need to be in the office, right? If you're really truly knowledge workers, then it's knowledge worker. But the other thing I will also say, that there is something to be said for the human to human. So we do need to figure out how we can have collaboration days. How can we bring people together? So you do know who your peers are, and you can go have, a glass of wine or whatever, soda with your peers. I think that's really important as well. So it's finding that right balance.
Thank you so much.
We got a question in the back?
Hi.
Firstly, I'm an undergrad. I was asking about the cap table that you mentioned. You said you only had 6 investors. Do you find, even with a bit of pushback, that they're clinging to the older traditions of male dominance and decision-making leadership, or do you find it more accessible in recent years, like post-COVID, with your cap investors pushing back against your decisions?
No, actually, no. I would say it's interesting, because when I did the investor deck back in 2021, I was very clear on the criteria of who I wanted to be on my cap table, because it's like a marriage, You don't want to bring the wrong people in, and you just don't want to take the money because they have the money. You don't want. So I actually said, just like we do on our job descriptions, even for my investors, I said, I want soul investors. I want an investor who has a soul and a heart, right? Like deeply cares about what we're trying to do. They, of course, also have to be patient investors, because, what the problem we're trying to solve has been going on for thousands of years. So it's not like in a day, Upleyvl is going to solve it, right? So it's going to take us some time. So I think it goes back to being, as an entrepreneur, you need to think about the entire, ecosystem infrastructure you build, whether it's your team, whether it's your partners, whether it's the vendors, whether it's especially your investors. You really want to be careful about who you bring in, because, now they're part of the company. You're welcome.
Hello. It was very amazing to hear you today. And I'm a junior. I'm studying economics, and I'm also working on my own startup currently. It's my first time. And listening to you, I realized you have switched so many different companies, you have worked in different industries, met so many people on the way, and now you're doing your own startup, which makes me think that there are so many challenges and it feels risky when you're switching an industry or you're getting into, as an econ major, when I'm doing my own startup and I want to go into full-time into it, but there's always this, scare, or I'm scared to switch or not apply to full-time jobs, or, go full-fledged. How will I answer my parents, or how will I answer my family about it if I fail? So this scare, like how I'm scared, or the fear of failure, and the fear of not risking and stepping out of your comfort zone to try different jobs in different industries, always there. So how did you deal with it, and what's your lesson about it?
One thing for founders is truly having a strong sense of self-awareness. And I say this even to, the young women that I mentor at UT, which is you need to really know as a founder, what are things you really can do and what your blind spots are. And some of those you may think, well, I'll just go hire somebody, which may not necessarily be the case, but also it might be, I'm gonna go and work for 2 years and learn, because first of all, you learn so much about just what it means to be an employee, because if you yourself have never been an employee and you're not gonna go hire people to be working for you, you have to think about how you're going to establish those dynamics. What are things I liked as an employee? What are things I did not like? And as a result, these are things I will never do in my company because those were just awful. But you've never done it. You don't know. You also don't know what good might look like. You sometimes don't have to reinvent the wheel. So oftentimes I don't reinvent the wheel because I'm like, oh, I know how to solve this because this is how we did it at Ford. Oh, I know how to solve this. I saw this at PwC, right? So those experiences have come with me, which have helped me to shortcut things, right? So there's a lot of value. I'm not saying that that's, but it all comes down to you assessing in the end, because the gaps you have, your team's going to feel it. Your company's going to feel it. Your investors are going to see it. I mean, even at this age and with my experience, like I said, I have a long list of things that I could still continue to learn and really wish I could come back and do entrepreneurship school here. But then I'm continually assessing, can I buy, can I hire, do I have to go learn it myself and figure it out myself, right? So I think that assessment is really important to do.
I think that's an amazing answer. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Please.
So the other question that I have for you is that you spoke a lot about AI, how it can be extremely beneficial to the human race and how it can be extremely scary for the human race. And at the same time, you also spoke about the regulations. What would be your suggestion on how do we regulate it in bringing the ethical AI into picture and into the workforce? Because as you mentioned, a lot of the jobs that are going to be lost are going to be probably executive assistants. And these are the jobs that are majorly held by women. They're going to be the ones that are going to be really impacted. So how do we bring that regulation so that we can create the balance? And on the other hand, how do we upskill or reskill the workforce that is going to be losing the jobs that are going to be taken over by AI?
Yeah. So in some ways, to be honest, it will be great for us to prioritize upskilling our women so that really these low-paying jobs can go away, right? Because it is, when we say women make 89 cents on the dollar, it's not like for the same job. Sometimes that does happen, but most oftentimes, it's not like he's getting paid $100, I'm getting paid $89. It's just that when we look at the median of our jobs relative to the jobs that men have, our median is lower, right? Like that's the bottom line. I also believe that we don't need very strong regulation because I'm not for that, but I also think that there needs to be some sort of a body that gives you like that good housekeeping seal, like there's like that responsible AI seal. Maybe I don't know if that's where someday professional services, they come in the audit and they can really audit our data and be able to, so there's more transparency. I think today what's missing is transparency. Today, a lot of it, by the way, is in the hands of a few large tech companies massive lobbying dollars that go into it, I'm sure. And so I think that's where the world needs to migrate, is being able to have a lot of that transparency. And then when it comes to upskilling, I always say this, today Upleyvl is the first of its kind, but there are two things I would really like. I would like more companies, because there's no way Upleyvl can solve all the issues. We need more companies built by women through the gender lens with the male allies to think about how we can create safe spaces to upskill women. So I think that is really important. And then as we start to think about getting the upskilling within AI, it's not about that every woman has to go become a STEM, like we don't need that, but let's look at marketing as an example. In the future, a lot of the basic marketing will be done by AI, but the knowledge worker will be more focused on marketing analytics. What is that data telling me? What should I do? What will I recommend, right? So I think slowly, those are all, again, applications of AI. And I think that's what the upskilling means. Because I think when most people think upskilling is like, oh, now I have to go become a pretty, AI. Yeah, exactly. And that's daunting and that's scary. But actually we need to start, and that's again part of education, understanding. I want to just leave on this note, which is I have been desperately looking across many universities for male or female professors that are focused on gender and data and AI. And I haven't been able to until Chris here introduced me this afternoon to Dr. Anjana Sasala. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'm just going crazy here. So I asked her, I said, Anjana, who are your peers at different universities? Do you all get together? And her answer was, there aren't. There's women that are like, there's ethics, and that they're in a whole different plane. Then you got women that are like really just pure in computer science and thinking about responsible AI. But there's not very many like Anjana and myself who are really thinking about the commercial side of this equation. What's going to happen to women? Or other, right? Eventually it's women, underrepresented, etc. So, and there's not very many. So we need to think about it. Your generation to start to think about those intersections. When my generation went, well, you're an engineer and that was it, and you're a doctor and that's it, and you're a lawyer. But I think you all, and I loved hearing this morning, actually the kinds of classes or courses, the different majors and minors is, wow, amazing. So take advantage of all of that. Because you are the future. You are the future.
Thank you.
I think this is an appropriate moment to say that you have someone in your corner. I mean, you today just received some news. I didn't.
Yes. So talking about responsible AI, thank you for reminding me. The UN and the UNESCO are doing a lot of work. They have a consortium of 50 countries that are really working towards responsible AI. And then for each country, there are select men, well, in our case it's women, because this is around responsible AI for gender. And so there's a selected women that get selected to represent their own country. And so today we just got the news that I will be part of the responsible for AI on the UN. And I think that's a really great, thank you. It's an honor to do it for your country, but it also is a step in the right direction that those kind of bodies are thinking, right? And then once you get it at that level, then slowly maybe we can bring it, hopefully, to all the cities and states.
Shubhi, it has been an absolute amazing pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been so wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for being such a great audience.
You've been wonderful, everyone. Please, if you want, I think Shubhi has a few minutes that she can take. And then please, as you exit the building, take some pizza. Then just take pizza. It's all there for you. But like a whole box, just walk out with a box. Thank you, everyone, for a great Innovate State.
Yes, I do.
Here,
Well, actually.